Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. This is the new year, the year 2025. And, how'd you guys do last year? Did you have a good year? Did you have a lot of fun last year? Did you do everything you said you were going to do? Did you get it done? I think a couple of things here. I turned this podcast, I flip record on this because there's a lot I want to say, but I don't know how it's going to come out because I haven't put any thought into it, which is kind of normal for these shows. I don't really put too much thought into it. There's an idea of where I want to go. The few thoughts that are running through my head on this are fear. Fear energy, fear frequency, fear in the media, fear. And how it controls us. I'm intrigued by the if this then that scenario, and since we're watching this and perceiving this, we're seeing this and seeing that as well. I will start by saying most of December, we actually recorded a few episodes that didn't make it out. One of them for sure, I recorded it and it just never went out. I didn't upload. And a few of the other ones got junked. It was weird. Like the sound quality went, either it was the cabling or whatever, but I replaced all the cables. But yeah, they junked halfway through, and I thought that was so strange. And I'm like, maybe it wasn't aligned with my message. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. I have no idea. But December was a low month, and I don't want that to happen again. So to all of you who stuck with us through the snafu of the RSS migration, thank you. And we won't disappoint. It's going to be a banger year. I think this is going to be our best year yet. There's just so much going on. There's so many new frequencies that we're collectively tapping into and that I want to talk about. I'm so over fear. I'll say one more time, Happy New Year to all of you. Even though I firmly believe that the new year doesn't start until April 1st. I firmly believe that we are supposed to have a 13-month calendar with 28 days equally in all of them. And that the first of the year is the beginning, is spring, is when the earth itself comes back to life. This is how I believe it to be. And then, of course, if that's the case, then April 1st would be the first day of the year, would be the birthing day. Instead, we have it as April Fool's Day. And that, to me, I don't think that's accidental. So, if we're talking about fear, and we're talking about how people perceive certain things, there's so much that goes on, and I watch this stuff, and I know that I can't articulate it. I know that I don't have the ability to state emphatically what I'm saying, thinking, or feeling. I can state what I've been thinking about clearly and concisely for like 8 months. But my brain is 8 months ahead of the topics that I can discuss because I don't have the ability to, like I said, articulate. It's a strange position to be in because there's so much that I want to talk about. And my brain can't function on it. It's peculiar. It's peculiar. But this fear thing just keeps coming. I mean, we're dealing with a barrage of fear-based narratives. And what I mean by that is, like, prime example, I was out today to pick up some NyQuil for the members of my family. And now I'm stuck with these ideas. Like, I don't want the chemicals in me. I don't want the NyQuil in me. I don't want this. I don't want that. But even if you wanted out of the system that you're in completely, it's almost impossible because you've been indoctrinated into it so heavily. I don't just mean mentally indoctrinated. I mean all of the food that we've been eating in North America is practically deadly in small doses. There's industrial strength floor cleaner in your Cheerios. And people say things like, well, it's only a little bit. Or why would they put it in there if it wasn't okay to eat in small doses? But a small dose of Cheerios and a small dose of lunch meat and a small dose of McDonald's and a small dose of fucking whatever. Next thing you know, every single thing you're eating is trying to kill you. So it's not like we can walk away from the pharmaceuticals. We've been jabbed. Every single one of us has been jabbed since day one. Before you even have a choice, your parents stick you full of needles. The people born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they had way less, but everybody born beyond that, you've got 10 times as much go-go juice in you as any other generation before. Why do you think the kids today are so fucked up? There's juice, they're jab, 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 jab. And we're like, oh, it's good for us. We believe the doctors, we believe. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But we sit here today, having been jabbed, having eaten the processed food, having just constantly done all this stuff. And whether you believe the COVIDs and all that sort of shit or not, I mean, we're sitting in a position right now where we've been inundated with everything third dimensional. We've been inundated with this reality. And in knowing this, you have to question its validity. And once you start accepting it for what it is and sort of thinking a little bit deeper of your own accord, it gets to be more and more unruly, which again leads us further down the fear aspect and fear vibration. Now, I'm not saying fear is in we're all sitting here shaking in our boots. Even though I physically am right now, I have this cold, and I am simultaneously freezing and sweating at the same time. Like I am clammy, I have aches and pains all over my entire body. My voice is a little bit off. My brain is a little bit foggy. Like I slept the entire day yesterday. And, you know, I look at this stuff and I think to myself, like, this is chaos. Right. And then we hear things about the chemical fog that's going on everywhere. And if again, the chemical fog could be a thing, but it could also just be another part of the fear narrative. Right. And I also know too, like you get into a problem with these things, you get into these loops where it's like, if every single thing that I know I've been allowed to know, then what's the real thing? This harkens me back to the South Park episode where it's like George Bush is telling the kids how, you know, they create the narrative and then they create the conspiracy. So either you believe the narrative or you believe the conspiracy. Either way, you're not looking deep enough into what's really going on. And that's one of the things that's always stuck with me. It's like, I see this stuff. I see the control. I see the control in the narrative. And I also see the control in the fear. Like some of the people that I used to respect in the quote unquote conspiracy realm have stuck so wholeheartedly on whatever their one issue is that they haven't really branched out. And the more you look at this, the more you realize that these are just narrative continuations. And I'm not taking away from these people at all because they need to exist for people to see. For people who are on that wavelength to connect with. And so they're doing their part 1,000%. It's me who is growing beyond it, I guess you could say. And it's not that I'm growing beyond what they're doing. It's that I understand that message. I understand it. And I've amalgamated it into different thoughts, other frequencies. And I haven't lost respect for anybody, like I said. But I have decided in my own right that there's more to it. So I'm back in this realm where I was completely alone, and then I was surrounded by like-minded people, and now I'm seeing that those like-minded people are still barking the same commands and the same orders and the same discipline. And for me, it's like I just need to want to know more. And at the same time, I want to know how I can benefit myself and you, the listener, from having more knowledge. Like, what good is it to know and to see these things if you can't do something about it, or if your intentions aren't to do something about it? For me, it's raising awareness as best I can, but not in a negative light. I don't want to raise awareness. Oh, fear this and fear that. I'll say certain things like pay attention to this and look at that. But to fear it, I think, is one of the main things that they want. They want fear. Now, the they that I'm referring to, it's not a sect. It's not a conglomerate. It's not a group of people in a room. And if it is a group of people in a room, this group of people are the button pushers. The thought creators are above the room, if that makes any sense. And now, honestly, that sounds absurd. But it only sounds absurd based on the knowledge that we have, the knowledge that we've been allowed to have. And that's the biggest rub for me. There's so much more out there. Like we're watching now with Trump and RFK and all these people getting in there. Like you're watching the narrative pushers who were the Whoopi Goldbergs of the group, pushing this crazy narrative for so long. And it's not that they were pushing inclusivity, and it would have been great if they were, but they were pushing their own views as 100% correct. And they were aggressive towards anyone who wasn't. Now, you can look at this in any way you want, but if the intent is to quote unquote get rid of bullying, let's say, I don't think it's feasible to use bullying to get rid of bullying. And that's what the aggressive left were up to. And again, here we are using labels, the left, the right, all this sort of shit. And it's none of that, right? It's distraction. It's one distraction versus another. So now we have RFK, Trump, and all these guys pushing back against the crazy liberals. But the crazy liberals weren't having any ideas. They were pushing a narrative, right? And the narrative that needs to be pushed was inclusivity. And I firmly agree with that. Like, honestly, I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're straight. I don't care if you're dressed as a teddy bear. I don't care about any of it. Do whatever the hell you want. Have fun. Don't hurt anyone. Don't be a dick. And don't try to influence children. I think that's kind of the end of it. Do we need more than that? No. Do we need to go into other people's bathrooms? No. Is this shit even going to be put into practice? I doubt it. My gym says everyone's included. Or we got these stickers everywhere. I get it. You're right at the locker room doors. I get it. But you'd have to be pretty ballsy to be a dude and go into the women's side of the locker room. You'd have to have a right set on you. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. Because if I put myself in that position, if I say to myself, okay, I am an individual born in a male's body who has decided that I'm female. And of course, I can't decide that I'm female because it's all blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And everybody's got their opinions on that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, I am a dude who thinks he's a chick. If this was truly me, then I would understand that not everybody would understand my position. And I would then do my best not to inconvenience other people. Bottom line. I wouldn't want to go into the ladies' room at the gym and get undressed in front of a bunch of women. Because that's not empowering. That's putting my thumb on top of them. That's me going into their space and demanding that they accept me when I, for the most part, haven't even accepted myself. And for a million years, well, for about 8 years, we haven't even been allowed to address that or to talk about that. But I'm saying that's just me. I would want another bathroom to go into, or I would just be a male who thinks he's a woman in the men's room. I would be in there with my wiener when all the other wieners, see the wieners group together, and we go and get naked and we change. One collective wienering. It's a great show. Welcome to the first episode of 2025. Let's talk about wieners. Cock and ball. That's just me, though. I don't want to put people out. So anyone that's out there trying to put people out, it seems to me that they would be crisis actors, that they would be put up to it, and they would be narrative pushers, which falls back in line with the fear that we were talking about. Because if you're afraid, or if you see these things on TV and you think, I could do it, I should do that, I could be that, you have to then question essentially whether you can or you can't. And I think this is true for anyone out there, anyone listening to this show. If you're a tranny, I don't know if that's a derogatory term, I apologize if it is. Whatever you think that you are, whatever you deem yourself to be, I deem myself to be a male, whatever you deem yourself to be, if you're willing to make other people uncomfortable to prove a point, that's kind of a dick move. That's kind of a bully. If you demand we accept you for who you are, we will, and we do. But it's not up to you to put other people out. Regardless, we're a million years away from that. And if that's what we want to do, then have yourself a third room for everybody to go and enjoy in that sense. To which some would say, well, that's segregation. Of course it is. Right? Because this whole thing is relatively new. Because we've all been vaxxed up to the hilt in all kinds of crazy shit. And the food that we eat is poisoning us. And it's all this stuff. I mean, that quote, making the frogs gay, whatever it was. Whoever that guy is. And again, this is all entertainment purposes because we're on YouTube now, so they often give us strikes. So let me just press this button right here.
Disclaimer. If you're going to soundbite any of this podcast, you must soundbite it in its entirety for consistency and context.
I do like that we're on YouTube. Yeah. Oh. This is not meant to be rude to anybody. It's meant to demonstrate a fear narrative because I guarantee you there are people out there that are struggling with this, that want to be accepted, that don't want to be forced into the limelight. I guarantee you there are amazing people who are trannies, who are lost in the shuffle of all this. And they're not aggressive and they're not mean and they're not in your face and they're wonderful people. And we've been taught to do certain things and act a certain way and be a certain way with regards to certain things. The fear-based narrative, again, that I'm talking about it's consistent throughout all the conspiracies, throughout all of everything that we're doing. There is this underlying tone that seeps into the way that we think. See, I had to press that button because I live in the fear-based narrative as well. Because what if somebody wants to take my words and use them against me? What if somebody wants to hurt me because I'm trying to share a thought? Right? We live in that fear as well. And that fear, what that does, that primary shuts down free speech. Right? And this is where I talk about the narrative and the conspiracies jumbling. Alex Jones got sued for $1 billion or some shit, right? In reparations because he said some stuff against the trannies. Alex Jones is a shill. It's not like he's a real person that's helping a cause. Alex Jones is pushing a narrative that he's been told to push because he's an actor. Bill Hicks, Alex Jones, whatever you want to call him. And he takes the conspiracy people and he pushes them to an extreme. Because if you think you're quote unquote conspiracy minded, then all of a sudden it's the whole world against you. But that's not the case at all. Right? It's just that we're susceptible to not believing certain things. Now, it's almost impossible to believe the standard narrative now, which is where the misinformation bullshit came from, because now everything's a jumble. Everything's up in the air. It is a jambalaya, jumble-rooski. Free speech was never in question before, but now it is. And now we've got bullies pushing people around that say things that they might not like to hear. And they're self-righteous about it. Those people exist too, and they've been tricked into believing that they can get away with it. In other words, if somebody said something to me and I got offended, A, I'd be surprised. And B, I'd laugh. I'd be like, wow, that's deep. And there's some general stuff out there that is offensive. But for me to interfere, for me to have the audacity to interfere with somebody else, because I personally am offended, that's a me problem, isn't it? It's not a you problem. Why would I make it your problem? Again, I told you at the beginning of this episode, it could be a jumbly one because I'm all over the place. I can't quite articulate my thought on this, even though I want to, and even though it's clear as day in my head. There's so much that goes into it. It interferes with us. This fear-based narrative interferes with us. Small things. Like we're living through right now in North America with regards to the money. There's no money. And whatever money there is feeling less and less real as the days go by. They're talking about billions and billions of dollars going to Ukraine. For who and for what? Right? If you think about that money that goes to Ukraine, they buy stuff, right? Say they have to buy tanks. Well, now there's companies that have tanks, and the tank companies take that money and they buy the bolts and the nuts from the nut and bolt people. And those people love it, and they have to buy lunch for everybody. So you can't just take money and throw it away. Money, by definition, money should just disperse constantly into and around things. But where does it go? It goes away. Because it's not real. Because it's a fake fucking commodity. It's actually going to be the whole episode. I've realized that I want to talk completely about money on the next episode. That's what we're doing. It's all money and how much of a scam that is. How much of a fear-based narrative that is. I'm saying all this stuff because the idea that we can get past this is 100%. Right? But that's almost the meaning of life. It's going to take a long time for us to get past this narrative, this fear-based narrative. Because it seeps into absolutely everything. Everything that we do that we're afraid to do, or everything that we think that we can't do because it's inside of us, or that natural twinge to be like, oh, I don't want to go there. I'm afraid. Oh, nah. That's been programmed into you. All of us are living under the thumb of fear. All of us. None of us are living up to our own potential because we've been implicitly kept under thumb. Whether we're watching it on TV, or we're experiencing it through television shows, or we're eating it and putting it into our systems, or we haven't even collectively decided that we should, but we've been jabbed as children. All of it goes into how we function. And I can tell you this, we as a species are held under thumb. We're being held back. And it's not like any one person is holding us back. It comes back down, in my opinion, to us being inside a simulation, us being in a game, us being where we put ourselves so that we could learn, grow, and overcome. So the fear-based narratives that we're in are put in front of us to overcome them. Once you become aware of the fear-based narratives, they grow stronger and stronger, and you have to face them head on and say, this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. One of the ones that makes me laugh about money too is you get a credit score from a country that's trillions of dollars into debt, yet they have the audacity to rate your credit. It's a prison system. Money is the chains. This is why the housing market's going the way it is. I'll get into that all next episode. Money it's a huge one. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a huge year, banner year for us. We're going to talk a little bit more about fear. We're going to talk a little bit more about absolutely everything, and we're going to do the best that we can to make sure that you guys can see things from as many different angles as you possibly can. There's no one conspiracy. There's no one straight story. There's no one narrative. All of it is a conglomerate. All of it is part of what we're doing to get us to where we're going. And when you can see this for what it is, that, I think, is when we can start toppling the fear. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2025. And in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.